Okay, y'all ready to go? Okay, I think everybody is making their way back to their seats. My name is Melissa Schubert, and I am your VMS person. Admin. VMS, Volunteer Management System. So y'all, we passed out a paper a few minutes ago that gave you all the federal reporting codes. So I just listed the initials of each category. So I'm going to start working my way through those. And if you do have questions, raise your hand so we can kind of cover all of it. You won't learn it all today. It's kind of like a trial by error. That's what I've been told. But have all of you logged into your VMS? No. Yes. Okay, so all of you should have logged in and set up a code, like with your username and your password. If you have forgotten any of that, you can shoot me an email, which my email is on the bottom of the second page. And my cell phone's on there too, and you're welcome to text me. If you text me after 8 o'clock, I'm asleep. So you won't, I get up really early and I go to bed early.
What do we log into?
Ma'am?
What do we log in?
To the VMS system. What's your name?
And what?
And you are in the system. So I have all of y'all in my trusted little notebook here, and I know who is logged in and who is not. So if you don't know, when you signed up to be a master naturalist, you did that. You put in a code and a password. So before you leave today, if you do not know what that is, I have my computer, Carolyn has her computer, and Bobby has his computer, and we will help you find it. Okay, we'll make sure you're all good before you leave today. No worries, don't fret it. Okay, so we're gonna start looking at the codes. Now today is initial training, and it's at the bottom of field research, and I'm gonna scroll down and show you all that. So advanced training is what you get when you take a class outside of your initial training. The advanced training has tons of codes, as you can see up here, all these different codes. Some of them you'll never use because it may be something that we did one time. Anytime you want to do something that's not on here, you do have to get permission from Denise Hall, our advanced training person, correct? And she's listed on our website. So let's start going through these. You can see the birding ones, butterfly ones, which really only 3 people use those. And we have talked about there's stuff that people don't use. I can individually take them off of there, so it's not so overwhelming for y'all. TM Tuesday, that's something that y'all can do for your advanced training. So y'all have to have 8 hours of advanced training and 40 hours of volunteer hours. So you're 8 to certify after your initial training, the classes that you're taking until what, September? So here's your TMN Tuesday, where you would log your AT TMN Tuesdays, which are every, what is it, first Tuesday of the month? First or second Tuesday of the month of your agri-life. And that's where those go. Now here's an interesting one right here. AT Texas Waters, and I believe Terry MacArthur is going to do Texas Waters in a couple weeks. But if you're interested in being certified Texas Water Specialist, this is where your training hours for your water will go. So if you're interested in being a Texas Water Specialist, I'll need to know that because I have to put you on a list. So when you claim water hours, there's a little box at the bottom that says Texas Water. Ann was just asking me about this. Go ahead.
Just a question. So you're going through these codes, we take a class, we can go in, find what's appropriate to then report that we took these classes. Is that correct?
Yes, on our calendar and in our newsletter and in our Monday monthly bulletin, all of our codes are in there. So if you see a class in the calendar or on the bulletin, there's generally a code listed below that is supposed to be where you log those hours.
What happens at TMN Tuesday, and is it online?
It is, if you can go to the Texas Master Naturalist site, the main site, you scroll down a little, I don't know how far it is, and it'll say,
But there's actually a link at the top of the page that says TMN Tuesday. You can click on that, and it'll pull up a place to register for this month, so it'll be April's registration. They'll send you a link by email when you register. Make sure when you get that, you do flag it or star it, so you can find that link again later. Can y'all not hear me? No, you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube after, but yes, it does count.
it does count. This is the one, and probably, there's not very many that count that aren't live. So TMN Tuesday, you can go back and watch it anytime. Any of you in this room can go back and watch any of the TMN Tuesdays and claim them as, just for this year, as advanced training.
And so what is it?
It's just a training. They do a training talk once a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's a lecture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
But it
like 1
counts.
hour?
Yeah.
yes, 1 hour for each one.
Laura, what's your question?
So can we begin taking advanced training hours while we are still in initial training?
Yes, and volunteering. You can do everything. It's as long as you're clear, you're good. Okay, so any advanced training I'll claim. Go ahead.
Sorry, what if it's through another, like naturalist, like a third-party naturalist program like that,
You just,
Piney Woods or something like that?
some of that is on here. It's on our thing. It says Piney Woods Wildlife Society is on the top. If it's not on here, and say somebody, you're gonna meet other people that are like-minded like you and say, hey, there's another training coming up. It's over here. All you have to do is shoot us an email, Denise Hall an email, and ask her if that's approved. So when you take advanced training, it needs to be about Texas natural, master naturalist stuff. It can't be about Kansas. It can't be about Hawaii. It has to be about Texas. So just remember that. Is this about Texas? Look at the description and say, okay, it's about Texas, we can do it.
Question, it's second Tuesday, it's live, that you have to watch?
It is, but you don't have to, you can go back if you miss it and just click on the link and watch
Or
it.
just search them on YouTube. Like I said, Tuesday, April 12th, 12 to 1 p.m.
Yes,
So that you can do it later too?
Tuesday, April 12th is the next TMN Tuesday that y'all can do. There's enough of them coming up that would cover all your advanced training and then some. Okay, so, go ahead.
What is a Texas water specialist?
That's Terry's department, but the reason I opened that can of worms was, if you're interested in that, the Texas Water Specialist is where you volunteer doing Texas water stuff. I know, there's not there. You have to go to the Texas Parks and Wildlife website, go to the search bar, put in Texas Water Specialist. It's gonna bring that up. That is run by Melissa Alderson. You have to have 10 hours of volunteer hours a year to stay certified as a Texas Water Specialist. And is it 8 hours of volunteer? No,
It's 8 hours of training.
8 hours of training and then 10 hours of volunteer. And that's only the first year. After that, it's just 10 hours of volunteering every year. That's it. And a lot of times it's something you're already doing and claiming.
And Terry MacArthur is going to talk about that in detail on July 23rd.
Yes, and if you know you want to do that, then shoot me an email and say, I want to do that. So I can go ahead and fix your VMS account to be in progress. That way you can certify. So when you do that, you get a Texas Waters pin sent to you and a certification certificate for the Texas Waters. And that's testing water. There's testing sites that Terry sets up. There's storm drain marking goes under Texas Waters. The school classes that come out to, what is that? Park.
Fair Branch?
Fair Branch Park, you go out there and you're dipping for insects and teaching the kids about everything in the water. That counts. And Terry has a whole setup for y'all. And that class that she's gonna give counts as Texas Waters with this. So you have to click the box.
I just looked up the Natalie's program site and it lists of, like one last month that's already done, which is women in, historical women in nature. That one could be done on YouTube.
Yes.
Credit for it.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do January, February, March. You just can't, you can watch all the ones from last year, they just don't count. And they had some great ones.
Yeah, the storm, the Uri one was really good. It was 3 hours long,
Yeah.
but it was really good because it talks about the effects all across Texas and from the coast to the, panhandle. And it was amazing to see all of that. Okay, so AT Texas Waters. There's another webinar that's done every month. So when you go to the Texas Water site at TPWD, you can scroll down to the webinars. The ones that have already passed, you can't watch those in Claymore because there's Q&A that is built into the webinars that we do during the webinars. So the last one was actually Scott doing his stuff for Livingston. Y'all can claim those as AT. Okay, so you go on there and register for each one of those Texas Waters if you want to do that. But it does count for AT for you, whether or not you want to be a Texas Water Specialist or not. So that's the AT stuff. There's all kinds of training on here. And most of our, I call them vendors, opportunities are on this system. So some of y'all may have different stuff. So I have angler education because I'm an angler instructor.
Oh, because you're TPWD, not just.
Right, and we'll talk about our double dipping in a minute. So that's AT, advanced training. CB, admin, that is your chapter business, anything that you do for chapter business. If you came and picked up a book and we were speaking at that meet and greet we had, you can claim those hours on CB admin. Chapter meetings, any chapter meeting you attend, whoops, lost it there. Any chapter meeting you attend goes under chapter meeting. And the training part goes under AT chapter meeting. So we go all the way back up here to chapter meeting. So at the end of the meetings, I will generally tell you that the chapter meeting is 0.5 and then the AT is usually an hour. Did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. So at the chapter meeting that we had last month,
Mm-hmm.
someone mentioned to me that you also can log your ride time.
Yes, on the chapter meeting part, but it cannot exceed the time of the meeting. So if our meeting was 0.5 and you drove an hour, you can't claim that. You can only claim 0.5. Okay? There's so much to this.
You can claim drive time for like service, but not for the AT.
Yeah, but you can't claim it on AT. Okay, y'all see all the AT. Let's go down here. We did CB admin, CB business meeting, DO. As we're going through these, y'all can read them on your paper. DO is direct outreach. You're teaching. Usually your crowd that is there, they don't leave you. Like today, you're sitting here, that's direct outreach. Field research. Field research is stuff that Gwen was talking about with her iNaturalist. But there are a few issues there. If you're birding in your backyard, you cannot claim those hours under field research. And I will make sure that I send everybody that paper so y'all understand that. I'll email it to you. You have to bird in a project. So we just had feeder watch for one. You go to Cornell's website and you can do feeder watch, and then you can claim your feeder watch under field research feeder watch. Hang on.
Can you, I don't know, just blank on the word for it, but can I claim my great backyard bird count?
Yes,
No.
you can. If it's within the 45 days of doing it, you can claim it. That does count. So the great backyard bird count counts for your backyard.
Okay.
But any just random day out there e-birding does not count. Unless it's connected to a project like the Great Backyard Bird Count. I know that gets so confusing. We have all these little details. And that's why I tell everybody, don't worry about it. When we cross the bridge, we'll talk about it. And if you have questions when you get to a certain subject, then we'll talk about it. Or you can email me or call me and I'll help you get through it. So there's no need to worry about it. Initial training, that's what you're doing today. Initial training. All of this goes under initial training. And for you to find it on your page, just scroll. Oh, stop. Just think, they did this all on paper before. I know some of you don't feel that way. I feel that way sometimes when I'm having to correct a lot of things. And a lot of times I don't want to bother you. So I'll correct it and email you and tell you I corrected it. Because you're going to have to delete it and put it all back in. And I already know how to do that. So unless you don't want me to touch it, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll correct it and fix it for you. So here's the initial training right there. That's where all of your classes are going to go. Go ahead.
So, for instance, like today,
Mhm.
would it be 4 hours?
It's already built in and you claim whatever she's put on there.
Whatever it is like that. Okay, because I noticed like at the meeting, the last meeting, it was 0.5.
It was 0.5 for the AT.
No, okay, so for the meeting, that's the service, would be the 0.5, and then the AT would have been the hour. So at a monthly meeting, you get 2 different things. You get part for the business meeting and then part for the advanced training.
But I guess what was confusing me was 0.5 is like 30 minutes, right?
Yes. And that's on your second
Even though the
page.
meeting was way longer than 30 minutes.
The whole thing together was an hour and a half. 30 minutes of it was for the business meeting, and 1 hour was for advanced training.
Gotcha.
So you got 2 different things.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll round up or round down depending on what we need to do when it comes
And
to.
Melissa will tell you how much for each one at the end.
Yes. So if we're on a Zoom, I'll do the same thing. I might put it in the chat or at the end and let y'all know. So do you have any classes built into this? Any extra classes built in?
Yes, we
Okay.
have 52 hours built in.
And they need 40?
They need 40.
You need 40 class hours. So if you get all your 40 hours of initial training and you come to all the classes, that's what, 12 hours you can claim as AT. Okay, just a little reminder about that. You have every opportunity to get your advanced training for your certification because you have TMN Tuesday. You have Texas Waters, regardless if you want to do it or not, and you have the built-in classes, the 12 hours built in to this class for AT. Okay? Yes?
I'm sorry to bug you.
No, keep bugging me. That's what this is about.
The actual Texas National Naturalist meetings, if I can't attend in person, I have to attend via Zoom. I'm sure I can get the AT, or will I still get that half hour of service hours?
Yes,
All right.
Yeah, you'll have 0 drop time.
you'll have 0 drop down. That's right.
Driving while he's moving.
Okay.
Don't be doing it like that.
Now we have NPA, which is Natural Public Access, and me and Carolyn and Brenda have been milling over this one. So we're talking about, this is for if you're blazing new trails, not keeping up with the butterfly garden at W.G. Jones. So if you're out clearing a new way that people are going to walk down for BLC, Bayou Land Conservancy or such, that would go under NPA. If you're upkeeping something at Bayou Land Conservancy or W.G. Jones, upkeeping it, it's RM. That's again another one that we will toss back and forth to you. OT is another category that doesn't get claimed. Let's see if a good example for that one would be Friends of Texas Wildlife. So if you're taking care of native animals, right, they can claim native stuff. This is the only thing that people put OT under generally, unless you're doing some business for BLC that goes under OT. It's very few. Which one is it?
What would be an OT for friends like Vegas?
OT? There isn't, I don't think it's used, and that's some stuff that I will be taking out.
Okay.
There's things that don't get used, and I'm listening to get rid of it.
What would be another that would get?
Texas Friends of Wildlife has a few things that you cannot claim. So is it intake? Is OT, is intake from what Adrian claims?
So it's not, if building and you're actually intaking animals, you can claim it. The OT part, I think, happens if you're just manning the phones. And you have to sit there for like 2 or 3 hours to answer phone calls. Or
Yeah,
if
it's-
if they forwarded it to your house, but I don't think anybody would have that.
Okay. So OT is just something that doesn't count under the master naturalist guidelines. Mercer is a perfect example of that. If you're working with tropical plants, that is not native Texas plants, so it goes under OT, others. If you're working with natives at Mercer, then that's acceptable.
So when you
Yes.
say that doesn't count, you're meaning it doesn't count for them to get funded.
It doesn't count, it doesn't count for their federal funding.
But it still counts as service.
It counts as service for y'all
Okay,
here.
so y'all get that? No, we're gonna talk.
Okay. Everything you do, you see this as VMS Federal Reporting Codes. That's because your hour is worth $24 for every hour you volunteer. So if you volunteer for Texas Parks and Wildlife, like I volunteer for Brazos Penn State Park. So every hour I volunteer, they get $24 for my time. Okay? Now, when I volunteer at Brazos Penn State Park, I cannot claim that under Hartwood because I can't double dip hours. There'll be lots of trouble if you double dip. So no double dipping. Each one of our opportunities gets some money in some way. And I don't know actually how every one of them works. Mercer gets money too for their volunteer hours, right? They have a volunteer system.
Okay, this is the way it was explained to me.
You might want to do it on the microphone so that you can hear it.
Okay.
I'm having this back. Just in case. Okay, the way it was explained to me is that the Texas Master Naturalist Program is funded by a federal grant. In order to be considered for the grant, we have to put up a certain amount of funding. The funding is in-kind donations. The in-kind donations are your hours. So let's say that we're gonna apply for a grant for $200,000. We have to put up half of that. What our partners do, what the state office does, is they go through and they look at all of these hours that you've done and they say, we're gonna need so many hours and only these hours are gonna count. Chapter business, resource management, nature and public access. They're not gonna look at OT and they're not gonna look at FR. They're gonna pull those hours and pool them across the state and they're gonna say, yes, we have a match to this grant that we're applying for. Other partners of ours, Mercer, Bioline Conservancy, they go for other grants. There are times when we're up for the same grant, and that's for double dipping herds. That's where you have to decide, am I gonna apply this toward Master Naturalist time, or I'm gonna apply it toward Mercer time? What I do when I go to Mercer, I'm the cataloger there. They have a research library. Whenever I go, when I sign in, I put TMN behind my name, so they know that they can count for some of their grants. They can say, we had this many hours in volunteer, but for other grants, they don't. Okay? I'm not sure how Bioline Conservancy does it. Do you know?
Yeah, I work at BLC. Yeah, we get the trail hours. So like Diana, for example, would somebody sends me the hours, we log them, but it's for other mutual agreements through government entities.
Okay. So that's where double dipping comes in. Now, I don't want you to go home and think this is all just a web of complexity, okay? And it's just that, and don't say that, we're sparing them, look at your faces.
That's why you keep calling it
No. Honestly, when you first start, and you start inputting hours, after a while, it kind of becomes second nature. You're like, oh, yeah. This is gonna be RN, and this is where I usually volunteer, okay? You're gonna find your niche, and everybody has their own thing that they love to do, whether it's bird watching,
whether it's native plants, you're gonna find your niche. And until you find your niche, you're gonna be looking at this list and going, where am I gonna plug that in? Trust me, if something comes across that looks hinky, you're gonna get an email. But she's not mean. She's not gonna slap you on the wrist. She's gonna go, I need to teach you this, right? And she's gonna write back and tell you why you need to change it. Sometimes if it's a little thing, she'll go in and change it herself and you'll never know, okay? Do not look at this as a big bugaboo. This is not meant to deter you from volunteering. I know some people are like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna have to put this on. You know, it really isn't. The big things to remember are, you have 45 days from when you actually did the volunteer work or did the AT training to record it. Anything over 45 days, we can't accept it. It's a special circumstance, and that's not anything that she wants to hear.
Yeah, there's certain things I can't.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Back to you, Dr.
Yes.
Was that
Okay,
good?
moving on. Moving on to public outreach. So a lot of times public outreach is when we're working a booth at Wildlife Expo or different places that we set up. That's public outreach. People are coming and going. So those things go under public outreach. And then there's RM, resource management. And like Carolyn said, you're gonna find what you volunteer at, and then that's all I'm gonna see from you. And I was just talking about removing a lot of things from your list, that way you don't get so confused. So resource management, if you go out to WG Jones and you're helping manage those butterfly gardens there, that's resource management. TG, providing free detailed natural resource management advice. So I think I only have one person that actually uses this, and it's Mike McGee. He gives a lot of advice on gardening and stuff for his neighborhoods on planting natives. Again, everything has to be native to Texas. Go ahead.
What if you do like a merit badge class for scouts or anything like that?
That's under your
TG or
DO, direct outreach. A lot of the Girl Scouts and Boy Scout stuff goes under DO. And if you have anything like that you teach at different places, then shoot me an email and I'll tell you where it goes. Okay, and she talked about the 45 days. Now, under the minutes, so if it's 15 minutes, it's 0.25. These are things I correct and don't email you about. Sometimes that's just, if you log, for instance, 0.45 or 0.75, I'm gonna change it, you're not gonna know, and we'll move on. I have somebody that does that all the time. Maybe I should email them.
0.65 is wrong, 0.75 is right.
Yeah, so it's 0.75, so 30 minutes is 0.5, and then of course 45 minutes is 0.75 on your list. And I did put my email and cell phone number. And if it's during the day, don't hesitate just to text me or whatever, and I'll answer your questions. So you all should be logging this stuff. I tell everybody to set a time you're gonna log your hours every week would be a good idea. Like on Sunday or Saturday evening, log your hours. Because they stack up and then you might forget some of them. So keep a log. Do y'all have questions?
Melissa?
Yes, go ahead.
Through the virtual volunteer fair, a lot of the projects that I do, one is transcribing labels for the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. And one is looking at the rangeland database and editing and coming up with sending new photos for that. So they were approved by Parks and Wildlife, but I don't know what to call those projects.
Because
It's resource management.
It is
but it's a
resource
virtual
management.
resource.
But it is a virtual resource.
Okay.
So should we have a new code for?
Don't let me get you.
Well, it's already good.
But this is on your own property, right?
No,
No, it's-
I'm doing like rangeland management database.
Oh.
They're like, we need pictures of brush and blue stem. So yes, I took a picture of brush and blue stem.
When is the
online.
virtual
Okay,
volunteer
see, this
fair?
is the problem I ran into, because I
When
took
is it?
pictures on my own property. and I
Okay.
put it in these
So-
things, and I couldn't count.
But I'm doing this for, it's gonna be published on,
It's,
That's what I did too.
but this is published for Texas A&M website. they're using my picture as a resource, but I did the research that,
Yeah,
you know,
it's,
FDA calls it this, and USDA calls it this, and, you know.
you have two places you can put that. You can put it under field research and you can put it in RM.
I think RM.
Yeah, because some of it is like they digitize all of their plant specimens, and they need somebody to go in and make it searchable by just typing, like this was Brazoria County, this was 1937, you know, so.
So the volunteer virtual fair is in May. You said which dates? Was it May? May 4th and 5th. Y'all can go online and join the volunteer virtual fair. It's what, 2 or 3 hours long, 4 hours? It can be a long process. But if you're computer savvy, that's some extra volunteer hours you can get by doing work for different entities through the state of Texas that need stuff like Glenn's doing, sorry. But there's a lot of details in that. But if you're good with a computer, you can do that. And look for on our calendar, we will have that. And it counts, just watching it counts as volunteer hours, whether you decide to do anything with it or not. Okay, opportunities. Opportunities are the places that you go to volunteer that are listed on this VMS system. If you have a new opportunity, that's going to go to Brenda Reeves, who is not here right now. But you can see all of our different opportunities on here. So we have the Native Plant Society. And they have tons of stuff to do. Huntsville State Park, is Scott here? No? They're going up there and doing stuff, and you can tell them what y'all do up there. Darla, they're leading hikes, they're working the nature center at Huntsville State Park, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, they're planting.
Planting, they're doing a butterfly garden out there as well. Is that with Native Plant Society too, or no?
Yeah.
Just Huntsville State Park.
And so
Allison.
Huntsville State Park would be one, like, after I've got my master naturalist hours in, then I may just give my hours straight to Huntsville State Park, and then they'll get funded for it instead of the master naturalist. So that would, because they can also get funding from the state, but they can't,
There's no double dipping.
there's no double.
Okay, so on here, when y'all log in, you can see all of the different opportunities. Go ahead.
My question on the Huntsville State Park is, do you have to, which he emails, I know he sends out the emails, but is it something where like you wake up Saturday morning and you just decide, okay, I'm gonna go out there and you show up, say, hey, is there something I can do? Can you just show up, or does it have to be?
He has a Google Calendar with everything that's scheduled on there. You can also email Ranger John, and he'll say, yeah, you can come pick up trash, you know, or whatever. Or if there's something that's already on the Google Calendar that doesn't, he puts insert your name here. And it still says insert your name here, insert your name here.
Because that was my
Yeah, there
concern
you go.
with getting all the volunteer hours, because I work a full-time job.
Right.
And so most of the things I see on the calendar are like during the weekday mornings or midday.
Oh,
And so-
yeah, he has some weekend stuff, like he has hikes on weekends, and, my puppy ran into my knee, so I'm with him right now. But as soon as I get through my physical therapy, I'm gonna be doing some of hikes on weekends. Okay, that's just what works for me.
Right.
Even 7 mile loop, yes, ma'am.
There is some at-home stuff that you can do.
The whole-
And I'll email you a list. Go ahead.
Well, I think you were actually about to just get into it. I was gonna ask you if there's like a web page or something we can go to get all this outreach information for, you know, if we do wake up on a Saturday, we're like, I wanna do service hours today.
If you wake up on a Saturday and then you want to do service hours in RM, you can head over to WG Jones and pick up trash while you're hiking, and that is totally claimable. We do not, I don't run around to check to see if you did stuff. It is on the honor system, so there's lots of things you can do. Weather monitoring, Coco Ross, field research.
You know, everything, so, let's say you wake up tomorrow and you're like, I wonder what I can do, what can I be involved in today? First thing you're gonna do is check our calendar. Very first thing you're gonna do is check our calendar. Not only is there things, not only are there things on the calendar itself, but right above the calendar it says, things you can do at your own pace, in your own time. And you click on that link, and there's a huge list of things that you can actually get involved with that don't involve you having to call somebody and say, somebody else can do that. You know, there's, can you get that here? Can you share that?
What?
Go to the calendar page.
I don't know.
I will come show you.
I wanted to repeat that so that people online heard what she said, because she wasn't on my.
Oh, okay,
Just as an idea.
okay, let's do.
Hello, people online.
Okay, so. We're gonna leave that open. Is it gonna show to everybody else? Yeah, warning. Okay. txmn.org/Heartwood is our drinking spell
Our calendar is on there for everybody to check all this.
event.
And the codes are under the opportunities as well.
Right, we try to make it as simple as possible. Okay, so down here where it says, find a list of unscheduled work at your own pace volunteer activities. Bobby, are you seeing this on your phone?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Thank you, love. Volunteer projects. Now, this is a list of projects that are, I hate using these, but they're mice. There's no mice in there. Okay, Firelink Conservancy Trail Crew, Jesse Jones, what's up in one of these? Heartwood has adopted a trail at this nature center. Ongoing trail maintenance is needed.
You said that was under the events tab?
This is under events is where the calendar is.
I just want to let you know,
Yes,
neither of those people are at Jesse Jones.
Yeah,
they aren't anymore?
No, but neither of those two people you have listed, and that contact should be updated to me.
Okay.
But yeah, just so you know, Jesse Jones,
Are you
call them.
so this John Stacy needs to be,
John Stacy needs to be me.
okay, I tell you what, Kirsten.
That's Firelink.
That's me.
Right, send me an email and
Yeah.
remind me to do it, because I will forget.
Yeah, because also, and I'll remind you, Jesse Jones, both those people aren't there.
Okay, Genesee Forest. We do, we clog.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
If we just decide to show up at Jones Forest and go pick up trash, do we have to go tell anybody or we just go do it?
No, you can just go do it.
So sweet, my kids will love
Somebody else, so Carolyn Worsham kayaks and,
They love doing that stuff.
Carolyn Worsham kayaks a Conroe and picks up trash, and that counts under the Montgomery County Beautification Society. You don't have to call anybody to do that, you just go do it. Which other ones? Mercer has a trail that we upkeep. I don't know that the name is on there, but if you go out to Mercer and you pick up the trash from that trail, you can count that as RM. So if you're looking for weekend things, there's tons of things to do that you don't have to call anybody.
So these are the weekends, these are the things that we have scheduled. When you click on whatever it is, this is one of your classes, the City Nature Challenge. Let's find, let's go into club. Okay, and if you look further down, you want to take over.
The City Nature Challenge is coming up, and that's got a range on it. Do you have it on there?
BMS code.
Oh, there's a calendar with our codes on it, so if you go out to Floodwoods and pick up trash or clean the trails, it's aren't. Now, Floodwoods, you do need to let them know, right?
And it's usually Tuesdays,
Yeah.
right?
It's on Tuesdays that they do their trash pickup. So all of our opportunities have connections. So if you're going out to WG Jones to do the butterfly garden, there's a group out there that does that. If you want to be added to that group or get an email for that group, I can get it for you, if it's not on our calendar. Floodwoods, the same thing. We have a group out there. You want to be added to that, I can get you the information for it. If there's something you're interested in, shoot me an email and ask me. See, so I can put you where you like to do things. I don't want to put you doing something you don't like, because that's no fun, and we want to have fun. Because this is about, you're volunteering your time, it should be enjoyable. I hope it is, anyway.
Yeah.
We always have fun. Go ahead.
So for instance, RM,
Mhm.
so does RM credit the volunteer hours or RM is its own hours?
That is your hour, that's where you're logging what service you did. RM Jesse Jones, or whatever one it is.
So these
Yeah.
are all the categories. that-
Yes, they're all different
hours.
The only ones that are not volunteer on this whole drop-down list are the ones that start with AT.
Yeah, AT is advanced training.
Okay, got it.
Everything.
So that kind of relates to a question I had. The
Okay.
chapter meetings, are the chapter meetings?
Yeah.
Are the 40 hours? What are the chapter?
Yes,
meetings?
it's a volunteer hour.
Not your initial 40, they're for the next 40.
The IT is your initial training.
Well, right, but the 40, so to like certify for the year, we do our 40
Yes,
intern.
they count.
Plus you're doing another 40 volunteer. Is the chapter meeting counted for that?
Yes, it counts as the 40 for certification. So every time you reach your goal for your hours, your first initial certification is a little dragonfly pin that you'll get at the end of this class if you have 40 hours of class time, 40 hours of volunteer service, and 8 hours of AT. Okay? Some people were really ambitious and had 80 hours of volunteer hours, regular volunteer hours, not class hours, and 16 hours of AT, and they double certified. So this year's pin is the lightning well. So if you're really ambitious and you get 80 hours of volunteer time and 16 hours of AT, you get a lightning well to go with your dragonfly.
And that's
And-
by the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
You get the second 40.
December 31st. You have till December 31st to do that. If you do the Texas Waters, you get the Texas Waters pin, and then Terry gives out pins every year for certification. If you get 250 volunteer hours, there's a dragonfly for that. If you get 500 hours, there's a dragonfly for that. So I have 3, I've done 1,000 hours. So you get all the way up until, I don't know, 5,000 hours, you get pins. At some point, you get a letter from the president, they sign it. But you get rewarded. So, it's like Girl Scouts, yes, exactly. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts for adults.
So like, what if we do like logging, or we do like canoeing and kayaking and pick up trash in an area? Can we just email you, hey, I did this for so many hours, is there an opportunity for that?
If there's not, I'll give you I'll give you what opportunity to put it under. So it may be RM, other location.
And, if you do any of this, like, for example, if I were to go to the trail crew, because I work there and I would be on work time, I would not be able to count it, right? Like, it would have to be individual.
It's just voluntary, you can't put it under there. If you're getting paid to do something, you cannot log it under volunteer hours if it's part of your job.
Another question, does it have to be within the counties that the chapter is serving, like it's gonna be in here?
Now, if something comes up and you're going to Rockport, didn't you do something at Rockport? No? The Hummingbird Festival in Rockport, if you were working that and you want to send me the information, and usually we ask you to send it to Brenda or Denise to have it approved. Denise is advanced training. And it Brenda's your opportunity person. Just get it approved, and then we'll give you a code for it. If it's a single presentation, it'll be a single presentation. And then you put the information in the information box, the description box, put where you were, and we'll know. So I don't have to look all that up. Generally, we know what's going on around Texas. You're probably not the only one doing it. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that will gravitate towards the same thing that we have in our area. What else do we have that shows up?
Here's an example, like picking up trash in my kayak on Lake Livingston versus Lake Conroe where she lives.
That's it.
RM, other location.
So it could be other location.
Mhm.
So
RM,
that's okay.
As long as it's in Texas.
Okay.
pretty much. There's very few things that we wouldn't approve. It just has to be under our mission statement. So make sure you'll write our mission statement. So coming up is the city challenge, and that's field research. Some of that is in your backyard, and it's allowed. So if you're out back in your pollinator garden, taking pictures of all the insects, that counts under city nature challenge. And it's on the VMS system, okay? And we can see what you log too. I mean, a lot of us are like, how many species did you log? We're gonna check our accounts. But under iNaturalist and Seek, have y'all done Seek too? But there's a lot of that.
So does logging stuff in iNaturalist count? 'Cause
If it's with a project.
if it's
yes.
a project, okay.
So Terry Sten heads up the Adopt-A-Loop. And if you're up in Huntsville State Park, so here's another, you can just go out and do this if you feel like it one morning and you didn't, it's not on the calendar. Adopt-A-Loop. If you go up to Huntsville State Park and you start taking pictures of stuff on Adopt-A-Loop and uploading them to iNaturalist, there's a code for Adopt-A-Loop on iNaturalist, and you put it all in, and that's another class another day. But you can just get up that morning and go to Adopt-A-Loop and log your stuff and claim your hours. And we'll teach you that. If you want to know about it, send me the information. I'll hook you up with Terry Sten.
Are these loops only within the state parks?
They're outside of the state parks too. If you're interested, send me your information, shoot me an email and say, hey, I want to know about Adopt a Loop. I will send you stuff. I will hook you up with that person. Okay,
Is Adopt a Loop different than Adopt a Plan?
yes. Okay. Adopt a Loop, all the data goes to Adopt a Loop, and Terry Sten handles that. But that's another opportunity you can just get up in the morning and go do, without having, it's not on our calendar, okay? Okay, what else can y'all think of that we need to do? Does that, so anybody that doesn't have, go ahead.
I have a question about drive times. Is it only for chapter meetings or is it for any of the things you go through?
It can be for volunteer hour stuff, but it cannot be for advanced training.
And is it on where we log this stuff in? Does it say right there?
No, it's not. So I drove here from Magnolia today because I live on the old town Magnolia. It took me longer than it should have. 0.75, no. So how long I was here versus my drive time, I can claim my drive time if it doesn't oversee what time I volunteer. Up to.
So if you were here for 30 minutes, you can't claim more than 30 minutes, right? So you would-
Exactly.
You would put 1 hour down and
Mhm. In the description box, you can put, for instance, if I drove an hour, I would say I volunteered 1 hour, I drove 1 hour. So I can put 2 hours in. There's, when the drop down box comes up, and I think she locked me out of that. We didn't do the drop box.
I didn't know that, I just put it in the different script. For yourself, I think.
Okay, so when you go to log these hours, there's drop down boxes on some. For instance, chapter admin. This one has a drop down box on it. There we go. So here's today's date. And I would put, I'm just gonna play around because I have control, I can delete
It
it.
says to the nearest quarter hour, but
So I'm putting 3 hours, but what did I do when I was here? Because this is where I'm gonna put today's work. And I'm gonna do board and committee work, because that's what I'm doing today. I'm letting training classes too. Yeah, or training classes. And then I would put, talked about VMS, did my best to explain it. And if I scared everybody. No. And then I would put my miles down here too, so you can do miles. And then in the description box, you do that. But there's nowhere on here where it says drive time. It does not say drive time. But in the description box, you would say drove 30 minutes, class 2 or 1 hour or whatever, and claim that. And if you forget, I'm not gonna bug you about it. I'm not gonna say, ah, you didn't give me your drive time, because I'm not gonna know.
So to clarify, drive time counts toward volunteer hours only. So it doesn't count towards initial training nor AT.
Correct.
Okay. And so you mentioned earlier, when we, like that day that we picked up the book, that counts towards volunteer hours or initial training?
Volunteer hours.
Volunteer hours, and in that one, we would count drive time.
Yes,
But not for today.
not for today. Sorry, guys. Okay, field research. Oh, go ahead.
Does drive time count if we take a ride share or from?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's your drive time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's your time. Okay, field research. I'm just using Cocoa Ross for an example, but you also can do weather monitoring, and that's another class maybe?
Another class.
Okay, but it's on here, so we're gonna show it to you real quick. I do weather monitoring too, so I would go on here and I would pick my dates. You can do the whole month if you want, because you can. So let's go back to April. And again, I can delete this. I could put the 1st of April, March to the end of March. We're on April. I'm not going back. I want to. This year is sweeping by. And it says, how many hours did I volunteer for that month? For me, it's about 30 minutes a week. So I would put 4 hours, right? Or 2 hours on here. No drive time. It was in my backyard. And guess what it is? It's Texas Water Specialist. Because I'm reporting how much rain I got, and that goes to how much rain went into the creeks, went into the rivers, da, 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 where it's gonna flood. So I would check that. And you need this box. If you need this box, you let me know. I'll make sure you get one. And then I would claim my hours. The city, why is that eluding me today? Nature challenge. You can log all 3 days for that too. So I'm not actually claiming this. If I go back to the board, it'll still be on my account, by the way. And if I go to, where is the city challenge? Yeah, let me do feeder watch. Let's see, feeder watch. That's another one people do on the weekend, 2 days at a time generally. You would put your 2 days in and the time you spent. And it does not count as Texas Waters. But see, that box is gonna come up on everything you have.
If you're.
If you're going for Texas Waters, but you can't click it every time you do something. You have to know where it counts and where it doesn't count. City Nature Challenge. Again, you can see that you can put all of your hours, and there's other, you can see where there's bio blitzes, iNaturalist, different things under this account. You can put all 3 days on there. And then you put your hours, and you don't have to give us a big description. You can put logged research for iNat. We all know what it is. And iNaturalist is so cool when you go to do this, because you're gonna have all these species on your accounts. It's really neat. But is it Texas Waters? No, it is not. What's another one that's a good one to explain? Oh, public outreach. Public outreach has some drop-down boxes too that are interesting. So some equipment you might want to do for public outreach is have a clicker for the amount of people you come across. I don't know if any of y'all have done that or not. Or a little notebook to carry with you. So you put your hours, you put where you were, what you were doing. And if it was Texas Waters and you were teaching about watersheds or whatever you might have been doing, then you click the Texas Waters box. Then you put your miles in, how far you drove. And then impact data. Okay? And I think it'll give me another box. Yes. So when you do impact data, you got to put in what kind of people. Okay? You'll have questions about what kind of people? No. Okay.
Is that required?
I have to do it for Brazos Spin every time we go out and do, and it's just giving them an idea.
So if you don't personally feel comfortable assessing somebody's demographic information, is it still required? I'm asking because I am like a representative in my organization and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, but if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. It just gives them an idea of who they're reaching.
Okay.
They want to see who they're reaching. Like at Brazos Spin, we want to see who we're reaching because we used all that impact data to find out how many different languages were spoken in the park. So we could put signs that said, goodbye, see you next time in their language.
Yeah.
So it's used for positive stuff. And we hope that when people come to the park, they enjoy seeing all their different languages there because we were able to get that information with the impact data. Okay, is there another one that has something odd to it? I don't think so. Those are just the ones that have the most drop-down boxes.
So
So like,
what does TG stand for?
TG is technical guidance. Okay, now, do you have any questions? Any more questions? Go ahead.
You were showing that a lot of the volunteer opportunities had that water specialist.
On mine, because that's my account.
Oh, okay.
Yours does not have that right now. If that is something you want to do, please let me know ASAP.
But my second question to that was just like, as a hobby, I like to go look at water samples from local ponds and just where water is sitting, that kind of research.
It will for Texas Waters if you want to do that. And Terry's going to teach you how to go do that yourself and turn the samples in. She'll actually give you a location to go to which creek will be your creek and you will test it monthly. I think it's monthly they do it. And then that's your job is testing those creeks. And you get to claim that for your hours under Texas Waters. So there's some really cool stuff that we're going to get into as these classes progress.
What about Texas Bumblebee?
Yes, so Suzanne Beckemeyer is our Texas Bumblebee person, and she writes ads or articles for their magazine or newsletter. So that counts for her volunteer hours. And if you want to know more about that, I will give you her email. So, and there's a lot of things like that you're going to see on here. And if you see something really interesting and you're like, I want to do that, send me an email so I can give you the person you need to contact so you can get out there and do the things that you love.
What is organized in
pollinator biotits
Mhm.
last June, was that a big one?
Yes, yes, and it may not be listed on here, it's not, no big deal, it'll be just field research, other partners. So you would put Woodlands Green or whatever partnership it was. AgriLife has a pollinator one coming up really soon. And they have an entomology class coming up too. Now, this is a paid class, and me and Carolina have done that, we're certified amateur entomologists. And this is a fun class you can do, you learn a lot, and it's 6 weeks long, 8 weeks long.
I did it in 3 days, but that was in person.
Well, these are on Zoom now, so that's really cool. You don't have to drive to A&M for the class or wherever it might have been.
Yeah.
And they're really good at teaching you everything. It's Molly Keck and Wizzy Brown are the teachers for that class from A&M. But if you're interested in that, it'll be coming up. We'll make sure when we do these classes, if we have something new coming up, that you get that information so you can do that. Now, those classes do cost money, so I think that one's $180, which is, but we learned so much. It was so much fun, and I got a little entomology pen. T-shirt, I'm getting a shirt. But the cool thing is, oh, that book.
Oh, the book is awesome.
The book was so beautiful, and the newest. Well, I got a butterfly net and I got a penning kit, and then we had to learn to pen, so that was really cool, but I wasn't into that.
Sorry, my ADD kicked in. What's this called, this organization?
The entomology class with A&M.
Okay.
So like I said, your head will be spinning some days when you leave this class, because you're like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, that sounds like fun. And you get really overwhelmed.
It's all going to be on the calendar, so we take the bulletin every Monday, we get a bulletin. Okay, and the bulletin has the highlights that we pull from the calendar, so check your bulletin. If you're like, they talked about something and it was gonna happen, check your bulletin every Monday and see what kind of things we have that are coming up that week. And then the newsletter is mostly, us out and about, pictures of us doing things. Not a lot of the calendar kind of things. That bulletin and the calendar are where you need to go first, okay? Just to make sure that you stay on top of what kind of things are available. And we'll talk about the Master Entomology Volunteer Specialist Program. That's what she was talking about, the MVES, we call for short. We'll talk about that when it becomes available and we get information about it. We're going to add it to the calendar. First thing, we're going to put it in the bulletin as soon as it's ready. So don't think that you have to look in a million different places for information. We're going to send stuff out to you. Okay, so you're not lost.
There's tons of stuff to do, and you'll get all the information in a process every month, every week. Stuff comes across, and new stuff comes about. Carolyn will make sure that it's in the bulletin, so you don't miss out. Most of it's free, so there's not many things you have to pay for at all. And our chapter meetings, when they're in person, we have door prizes and everything too. So we do want y'all to come out to our chapter meetings. I don't know where we're going to put y'all, but that's the #1 dilemma right now. Okay. What else? Are we done? Wait, go ahead.
If there is a place on the website where these codes are, where you can find the definition, because like as an old member,
Let me tell
I
y'all
never knew
how to
what
do
all
that.
was.
So if you want to know the definition of all these different opportunities, just click on them. So click on them and it gives you a general
Okay.
on each one. You don't have to go to each AT, because each one of them, they're going to be a little bit different, okay? Each field research is going to be a little bit different. And each DO may be a little bit different depending for the opportunity or the vendor that we're using. So like Bayou Land Conservancy will be Bayou Land Conservancy stuff.
But it helps you figure
Yeah.
out if what you're doing, is it resource management, is it direct outreach?
And that's one that people need to take and put by their computer so they have a general idea. If stuff comes across that changes, we let you know. Go ahead.
Can you show us your,
Hours?
Dashboard?
dashboard?
Like,
Your logbook?
Yes, logbook. So yeah, all those things I was showing you and I clicked on, they're all going to show up in that logbook.
Okay.
Okay, this is one thing I wanted y'all to see, because what is gonna show up once you do it is this. So you won't see the description that you actually put in for it. So I just want to tell y'all how I dumbed this down for myself. Because there may be like 10 things that I routinely volunteer for. So instead of having to go through the 200 list drop down thing, I wrote down like a page in my little notebook that I keep, a little bound thing for, like, here was this one, CD, or here was this one for Huntsville State Park or whatever. And then I would just write the date and however many hours, and then as I enter it, I would just check it off, because I go here and I'm going, oh man, I don't even remember, what I said about it the last time. And so then that's how it works for me, because then I didn't have to remember every time exactly, was it RM, or was it DO, or was it DO, or was it training, or was it this or this? Because it's gonna be the same one over and over and over, because I'm essentially doing the same thing. So at a minimum, I keep a short list of the ones that I do all the time. And then that just helps me. That helps me. So I'll throw that out there for y'all. Yes, ma'am.
If I could say one thing, I actually certified in another chapter, and so when I came to Heartwood, due to Carolyn's leadership, every calendar item tells you its RM and tells you what the description is. So before you start thinking, oh my gosh, what is RM, what is FR, what is PO, what is DO? Before you do that, look at what you did. If it's on the calendar, most things are, and down on the bottom line, it will say BMS code, AT, single presentation, something like that. You don't have to think about it. And that's due to Carolyn's leadership.
Yes, it was, yes, and that's miraculous. And then, once you do that same one over and over again, you can go and look at the calendar if you want to, every time, or I keep a list.
Okay, at the bottom of your page, it'll give you a summary of everything you do. So you can see, here's my summary so far for this year. If something's not right, sometimes there are glitches in the system, and we try to keep up with them. Sometimes we don't see all of them. So, and when you scroll all the way back up to the top, you're not gonna see last year's stuff. You will have to change the dates right here to see last year's stuff. Or 2 years ago, you have to change everything. So it's there, you just have to go hunting for it as we go along.
How far back do you go, Melissa?
How far back can I go?
How many years?
5.
And then it gives you a total at the bottom. and
Yeah,
you can
that's
see
what I
how
just
close you
showed.
are together. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I showed them that. So that way that you can see if you're certifying. Now I can see that on my side. I can see how many hours you have for initial training and everything. And I have a notebook I keep all of your stuff in. Because myself and Bobby, your mentor, is going to be watching all that. Because we want all of you to certify, graduate, but we want all of you to certify with your 40 hours and your 8 hours AT, because that would be really fun if we all got this done. Everybody gets a pen and all this fun stuff at the end of our class. And then you can start on getting your pen for this year. Yeah, double cert. Be really ambitious, no. And you'll hear that it's not about the pens later from Terry, but
It's all about the pen.
of course, Carol, it's all about the pens.
It's all about the pen.
So I think that's it on this stuff. And I just want to, I explained to you about the pens, and I told you got Texas water pens. And then, like if Terry does something, she may give you another kind of pen. I think I got a ladybug from her one time for one of her stuff. And we have leadership pens, or what is that, the state pen from, are they doing that again? The pandemic pen, or are we done?
Pandemic.
Are we done with that?
I don't know if we're gonna have one for this year. We have one for last year. We have, it's called, through grit and distance, I think is what it's called. And we just call it the COVID pen for short.
The COVID pen, yeah, the COVID pens. If you volunteer for the state parks, you get little license plates from them. But again, those are hours that go for the state parks. But most of them are doing the little pens. I know Jennifer was trying to get Huntsville to do the pens. She's like, I'm gonna let the John know so we have those pens.
It's all about the pens.
It's fun. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, don't forget, you can just email me and I will try to find you where you want to be.
Have you told me your email yet?
I did, it's on the paper I gave you.
Okay.
If you are online, for all of our online people, guess what? I'm gonna email you that later.
I sent it, I thought I sent it, texted you.
Oh, okay, and then you texted them the VMS sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, so you already got it. And then if y'all need help with anything, always send me a message or text me and I'll have it all done. What else do we need? Are we good?
Who's next?
Who's next?
Okay, volunteer opportunities.
Oh, that's right, and that's what we were just talking about, the opportunities. So there's not, if you go onto the VMS system, guys, y'all can look up all the opportunities. I don't know what else she was gonna go over,
I think just the calendar and the newsletter and the bulletin.
right? And then if you want a different opportunity added, you need to send that to Brenda. Like you have something new. Every year we have interns that come to our chapter and bring us new stuff. Like Carolyn brought us a beautification society, so that's on there. So you may have something that you do that we don't have on our list, and we'll be happy to add it if it fits the mission statement for what we do. Go ahead.
So for instance, if you're out at a park and you walk around for an hour and pick up trash, is picking up trash NPA?
No, it's art and NBA is blazing new trails, as Carolyn says.
So if you click on RN and scroll down somewhere in there, we tell you, you're picking up trash?
It depends on what park you're at. If you're at Club Woods, if you're at Jesse Jones, if you're at
And your
WG Jones,
your description will actually say, it's when you get to the description part that you'll put in, trash. It's not activity, right?
Okay.
but if you find a new activity, we can add it if we get it approved.
I mean, not by trash pickup.
Not by
It's by Club Woods. And then that's why you look at the code, or write your own little short for that.
So in this case, it would be resource management, which is art, and then the venue are our partners. So partners name would be a WG Jones State Forest. And then under that, you write that you can check.
Yeah, that's just what you type in. I did trash pickup, that's what your ordering was.
Okay. What was your question?
So there's a creek that runs through the back of my neighborhood and it's eroding. And is there any way to log that and get hours for it?
Yes, and that's gonna be through Terry, because that is who does that? I don't think it's Abby that does that too. There's a couple creeks that they have marked that they go out and check erosion on. There's several members that do that, and it's logged and it's submitted to whichever agency, so they know. And we'll get that information. It's probably gonna be through Terry MacArthur. But again, if you email me this information, I can connect you to the right person.
Email you about it. I was just gonna ask you about getting new opportunities like registered in there.
That's what you do. You send us an email or Brenda an email, and we check to see if it's something more than one person's gonna use, or it's gonna happen more than one time.
There's actually a link at the top of the calendar. Remember where I showed you the other opportunities that you work at your own pace? Right below that, it says suggest new advanced training opportunities. You click on that link, fill it out, as soon as you press submit, it sends it directly to the pace. There's one
You're talking
that says-
about opportunities.
Right.
For volunteer.
Suggest new volunteer opportunities to meet that, fill it out, then you click submit, it goes directly to Brenda.
Yeah, go to Brenda Reeves. Denise Hall is advanced training. Brenda Reeves is the opportunities, the volunteer hours. So, and I'm sure you're gonna come up with some new stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's it. I don't know what will be next, but you'll make it early. Thank you.
Okay, screen, well, we don't need screen sharing. It's on our spot.
Turn that on.
Okay, so the last thing that we have on our schedule for today are intern presentations. So our tradition is that the very last class, you have the opportunity to give a presentation, and it is optional. And we had some really good presentations, and some that are really long and some that are really short. I will give my own stuff as an example. Okay, so Scott, that y'all met earlier, who was the training director before me, he and Mike McGee were in my, we were all in the same intern class. Okay, so it comes time to give the presentations, and they were ahead of me. They had like 35 slides and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh no, oh no, oh no, because I had 4 slides, and one of them was the title. And it's like a picture, in 3 words, it's not. And, I mean, and theirs was fabulous, and, but when we, Al Barr will also be giving the talk to y'all on dragonflies and damselflies. Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was one of my favorite things. So I did dragonflies and damsel. I didn't know that dragonflies do this and damselflies do this. Who knew? And so anyway, and then I knew the difference of them. And so I took pictures of all these ones, on my property. And so that was my whole presentation, with pictures of these different ones. And but then I followed these guys. Okay, now you're going to get presentation light. And so anyway, but that's just to show you, it can be 35 slides with like the whole thing, or it can be 3, or anywhere in between that. Are you right? I do 1 or 2. And we had some.
You can do it as a group.
You could do a group one. You could do well, Mike and Scott did it together, so they were a pair. They were 2-man team. So and pick something that interestingly, I'm a plant person for the most part. My passion is plants, but I did dragonflies and damselflies because that's what really sucked me in, on my initial training. I just loved it. I knew nothing about it. And so that's what I did my presentation on. So it could be something that is totally different from what you think, what got you here. And when I say the thing I love about this program is that it's holistic, I mean, that's just an example of it right there. That's an example of it right there. So, yes, sir.
So what is the purpose of the presentation? What are we supposed to, is it supposed to be educational? Is it supposed to be our experience? What is it supposed to be exactly?
Yes and yes.
So
It
anything
can be educational. It can be something that, yeah, it could be your experience. It could be whatever it is that you want to tell your peers about. And so I wanted to just show the pictures of the dragonflies and damselflies that I had found on my property. And one Al was even impressed with because it was like this teal blue and damselfly that I found in our creek. And I'm taking them with my phone, so this sounds a little blurry, but anyway, it was still a really cool deal, even for the dragonfly and damselfly guy.
So it's really anything you want to do.
It's really anything you want to do.
Okay.
Do you want to give us some examples?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When I went through, a couple got up, and I love husband and wife teams. I see all of you. Welcome. And they got up and talked about mycorrhizal fungus and how important it is to plants and how plants communicate through it. I'd never heard of it before. Didn't hear about it when I went through the classes and stuff, but they had heard one speaker say something, and they went off and they figured it all out, did all the research, came back, had a beautiful slideshow presentation, and I was blown away. I got up and talked about how to find information in your local library to continue finding out about all the stuff you're interested in, because I'm a librarian, and I wanted people to know, you can look all this stuff up and get peer-reviewed journal articles for free from the local library. So I did a big presentation about that. So we had somebody last year who did a presentation on how trees have been modified by Native Americans to act as guides. And so she had pictures, beautiful pictures of trees in the area that had been adapted so people could use them as signposts. And at the same time, we had a guy get up and talk about doing bumblebees in his backyard and encouraging bumblebees. So it runs the gamut. It runs the gamut. It's whatever you're interested in. That being said, not everybody gets up and does a presentation.
Right.
Okay?
It is optional.
It is optional to take the pressure off of you, but think about what you're interested in and think about how you can inform your peers of what really resonates with you. Okay?
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it until September. Well, start thinking about it now. Start thinking about it. Keep it in mind. Start looking around and see who else is interested in the same stuff. You may find a partner to do your presentation with, and then you may end up volunteering together because you kind of share the same interest. It's all good. everything you do from here on out is great.
And those were great examples, and it may be something like the tree thing, I'd never even heard of it, and then once she started putting these pictures up there, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I may have seen one of those on our property, oh my gosh, and so that's the gift, I think, from this, is because, I mean, you may really be imparting some totally new knowledge on your colleagues here, and, I mean, all of them were cool. Yes, ma'am.
Typically, how long does the presentation last?
But between 3 slides and 35. I mean, no, it can be anywhere from 3 minutes to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Really. I mean, honestly, it just depends on you. I mean, this is a true story when I'm talking about Mike and Scott did the 35 slide presentation right before I did my 3 slide thing. Well, 4 if you count the title. I mean, honestly, it can be as short or as long as you think. When, shoot, who is it that did the bee thing, Bill? No. Steve. Yeah, when Steve did his bee thing, this was a project that he had done at home. He actually purchased like native bees and then created the habitat for them. And I mean, it was amazing. It was kind of an amazing project. I'm also a member of the Herb Society, and the Herb Society does, they call it the fuzzy butts every year, and we do a bee count. And then what we found on that was that instead of, bringing in the bees and then creating the habitat, what we did was bring in the food source. So we plant a bunch of nectar things and this and this and this that native bees will love, and there were people that counted 8 different species of bees in their gardens. So that was approached, and I told Steve about that because I just got the fuzzy butts report the next week. So the next time I saw him, I said, oh my gosh, here's another way to do it. You can come from this end where you create the whole thing for them, or what was that movie where they built the baseball thing? Build of dreams. Build of dreams. Build it and they will come. There was a flower bed of dreams for the bees. And so, just put it in. So, I mean, honestly, it could be anything. It could be anything. And true story is yes or no. Yes or, I mean, you don't have to do it. If you do, then everybody's gonna love it. Everybody does. I'll tell you what they told me when I was doing my thesis defense is nobody knows more about this than you do. And that's gonna be the same for this. Questions? Yeah. Done? Yes,
I'm
ma'am?
gonna be back here with my computer, if anybody will.
Okay, awesome.
I have another announcement to make. Here you go. Okay. The amount of time that's listed on your syllabus for today is the amount of time you enter into your VMS for today. So even if we end early, even if we're not at 4 hours or however many hours we thought it was going to be, you enter that amount of time, okay? If we go over, then you enter that, all right? So the minimum amount of time you're going to put in VMS for today for intern training is going to be whatever is listed on your syllabus. That's the minimum, okay? Got it? Anybody confused? Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, next week, Jones Forest. And
Do you want to tell them a little bit about how that's going to work?
okay, Jones Forest is about half, maybe a third, maybe a fourth this size. And it's pretty small room. And okay, so Scott, who was here earlier, is going to do our geology presentation, which will be about an hour and a half or 2. And then Matthew March, who was doing the ecoregions.
Yes.
Turns out that he can't make it. And but he pre-recorded it for us, which was so good that it's actually used at the state level. So we're going to show that. So anybody that wants to do it remote next week, it would be a good one. good week to do that. Because, or I hope y'all really like each other. Because we're gonna be squished into the room at Jones Forest, just saying. And we won't have tables in there, but we'll have chairs kind of like this. And, so anyway, if you wanna do it remotely, we'll send out the link again and
Yes.
do it.
And what we'll do, just to make sure that we have enough space for the people who do want to show up, I'll create a sign up genius. It'll limit the number of people who can show up in person, so we're not overcrowded. As soon as I send that link out, if you're absolutely desperate to be there in person, sign up. If you're not, and you're kind of waffling about it, you know, you can like see how many people are going to show up, and decide if you're going to come or not. But this would be a great one to Zoom in. Yes, Victoria.
So it's gonna be, Scott's presentation live and then video.
Exactly, and the video is like 2.5 hours. So,
Is it really?
yeah, it's long. He does all the ecoregions in the state, and it's beautiful. The pictures he's
He's
got,
really good.
phenomenal.
He's really good. Yes, so Scott's will be an hour and a half and Matthew's will be 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may be another thing too. If you have a pretty good drive,
Yeah.
then if you want to drive for an hour and a half presentation, and absolutely you can, assuming you're in the first 20 or 25 or however many. So,
We decided to have these in. Okay. I am so excited that y'all are all here.
I am too.
Yay! If anybody has questions, Melissa's too busy, I can
Okay, and, the Native Plant Society, I was talking about this thing, you know, that Sam Houston's thing at the end of they're doing some stuff, helping him grow native plants. Okay. Okay.